Edward here from earviewer.com. I have another video for you. I'm continuing with my series, my interview series, as I'm interviewing not just remote viewers, but I'm going to interview artists, creative people who are able to tap into the deep parts of the mind where creativity wells from, who create environments that inspire them to bring more of this creative impulse out, more of this creative energy, channeling it into things and being part of the process of creation itself. This all correlates with my interest in remote viewing. Remote viewing, in my opinion, is coming from the same realm of the deep mind where these creative impulses come from. In my work with remote viewing, what is really triggering this is through my experiences of remote viewing, many years of exploration of remote viewing, of deep meditation and sensory deprivation, exploring my own consciousness, that in a remote viewing experience, because I'm in remote viewing, the viewer is blind, they have no idea what the target is. They go through a perceptual process of obtaining perceptual experiences, feelings and emotions and dimensional sensations. And the experiences that I've had where I've experienced pure curiosity, meaning that I don't know what the target is, but below the threshold of my awareness I do, and in that realm something has triggered my curiosity and I'm becoming overwhelmed with it. In that same realm, I believe, is where these artists, their creative impulses and their creative processes are all coming from that same access point. And I want to explore their creative process with them. What inspires them, what it feels like to go through their creative process, and how they allow it to unfold, and how they put it and channel it into something. I had the great opportunity to go and visit with Sarah King. She owns a farm in East Austin, Texas, 20 acres. It is part of it is a natural habitat that they've turned it into. They're also beekeepers, where they literally saved a huge colony of bees who would have more than likely have been destroyed. And they brought these bees onto their farm, and it's just part of the immense energy of life that they have surrounded themselves with, that is the catalyst for their creative energy that comes through them. It is nature itself that Sarah King channels through her own being and puts it into the art that she makes, into the jewelry that she makes. It is just amazing. She allowed me to just do a quick video of her studio where she does her artwork. The video quality, my camera didn't really adjust too well to the light and the shade in there, so just bear with me. But hopefully you can kind of catch the space, the ambiance in this space, which is something that former military remote viewer Lynn Buchanan talks about in the remote viewing process, is the ambiance. When you go into a space and you can feel the emotional, the mental energy that is infused into that space, was so strong in Sarah's studio. Here's a quick tour of her studio with all of the items that she has in there. There's life, there's death, there is everything in there. It's just amazing. You know what? I can go unplugged here. Go up like this. This. Oh, look at this bench. amazing workbench. Oh, look at this kitty. Hello. I don't want to do too much on the family photos. There you are at your desk. Amazing. That her place is just incredible. And that's where these creations come from. She makes jewelry, custom jewelry. She works with people. She has an immense empathic ability to connect with individuals and then take what they're looking for in a piece of jewelry and create it. It's a co-creation process that she works with people. She describes it in the interview, and it is just amazing. This fox ring that I was able to hold and look at that she created is just astounding. She's worked on many films, making props in movies. She's worked with museums, natural museums, and their displays. And you can see it all revolves around nature. And that is what we talk about in this interview as we explore her creative process, her inspirations, and how the creative spark, as she calls it, the creative energy of nature itself. That's how she's so connected to nature that and in nature, it's nature's infinite creative potential, and she taps into that. She is part of that. It's all around her place, and it comes through her into her creations. It's amazing. And she talks about it in this interview. Listen very closely to what she's saying, because what she's describing this process, and listen to it intensely as I did to learn more about the creative process. Every word she says, I was hanging on every word because it was so informative. And as she's talking about true knowledge, real knowledge, what does that mean? It's the knowledge of creation of nature, finding the individuality, the uniqueness in every element of nature all around us all the time that we take for granted. We are so blind. But Sarah had the great opportunity in life to be taught at a very early age to be awake and open her eyes and see the uniqueness all around her, infinite creativity all around her, and it all comes out in her artwork. And so for anyone who is interested in getting a piece of custom jewelry made by someone who is so in tune, go to her site, crownfoxstudios.com. I cannot recommend her enough. She is the real deal. And that's enough of me blabbering on. Here's the interview with me and Sarah King in her art studio on their amazing property in East Austin, Texas. Edward here from ERViewer.com. I am deep in the heart of East Austin, Texas. This is still Austin?
This is still Austin. It's not city limits, but
we are deep in the heart of Texas. And I have the great opportunity to speak with an amazing artist, sculptor, visionary, artist, jewelry maker, very, very creative individual. Here, Sarah King, and I'll have links to her works. She's worked in the film industry, she makes jewelry, and amazing pieces of art. I'm in her amazing art studio here where the creative process happens, where inspiration happens. The ambiance in this room, you could cut it with a knife. And I want to talk about that and Sarah's creative process. She was talking earlier about when the spark of creativity illuminates within our consciousness. And let's start there, Sarah.
Okay.
You were describing to me when you go into the creative mode, and you referenced it as a spark.
Yeah, I think, you know, you get, whether it's triggered by an object or a piece, a stone, a feather, whatever. I think sometimes an idea is going to be sparked from an object, whatever project you're doing, and then from that you get a little picture of it in your brain, or at least I do, and then from there I think it's more of a process of taking the first step and embodying it and seeing how that's going to come into actual physical form. And you're not really going to use your mental brain to make something physical. You're going to, or at least I do. I'll use more of my hands to make it.
How do you experience that? So you get, so when the spark, it's a feeling and then it's an image, or what kind of feeling is it?
I think it's more. I guess I have to attach it to an actual piece that I've done, because there's a couple of pieces that I've done that I felt flew out of me or flowed out of me, and those are the ones that you know that you had the idea and then it was the perfect process and it came to fruition. It wasn't, you know, sometimes there's a chore, sometimes it's like, ugh, you hit these roadblocks and you can't quite get to it. Yes, but then, exactly, but then sometimes it just flows out, and I think...
Will you have one of those?
I'd probably say this is a pretty good one of it. It's a ring of a fox.
Goodness. That is unbelievable. Let me get a close-up of that. Tell me about this piece.
Well,
that is fantastic.
For my personal work, when I'm not making things creatively speaking for an industry, be it the museum or the film industry, that you have to kind of separate your artistic mind. You have to use your skills and your talents to create something that they want. Mm-hmm. But when you're doing something that you want, and that's, I guess, tapping into your seed of creativity, then that's a total different... to me, my brain will be divided into those two categories. Creativity for work, for somebody else, creativity for myself. Yeah. And that keeps me from being artistically driven, I think. Because you have to put aside your artist persona when you're doing stuff for somebody else. Sure. Because they're going to critique it. You're making it for them. You're the tool. For you. Yeah. Yes, you are the tool of the process. And with this, it's more about an expression, which I think that's typically what people key into when they're talking about creativity. Absolutely. Is their personal expression. Absolutely. Tell me,
how did the inspiration come through to make this beautiful piece here?
I am kind of a magpie, and I would be happy just being in the woods with animals and critters and watching things. And so this was the first piece that I wanted to make that was inspired by a critter or an animal. And so I'll research the attributes of that animal. And I guess now people, there's this it was kind of before, growing up in the woods and being homeschooled, my breaks were just go out to the woods, go to the creek, go play. Yeah. And so my friends were, oh, that's a cool twig. Oh, look, there's a squirrel. Blah blah blah. You know, yeah. So
a lot of curiosity.
A lot of curiosity, and so I obviously identify to nature a lot, and I would definitely say that most, if not all, of my work is nature based in some form or fashion. Yeah. So this is my rendition of a fox, and it has fox claws embedded in them.
Real fox claws?
Real fox claws.
Okay, so there's an actual real thing in there.
I just think an object like bones or even metal, everything has its own energy, right? They talk about rocks having its own energy, force, or whatever. And and I do think that. I think gemstones do. They're just now, I think, realizing that crystals had a lot of different aspects that in the past and to the ancients that we don't know about. Maybe some lost knowledge there. Mm-hmm. I think that's also drives me in a lot of my creative endeavors is lost knowledge.
Lost knowledge, like let's talk about that for a second, and then we'll get back to that amazing piece. Meaning that you feel that within you there's some knowledge that you're trying to pull out of your deep mind.
Yeah, definitely.
That it's there, it's ancient, it's in you, and you want to try to find it.
Yeah, ancestral speaking, or just in your bones or in your hands.
Do you use the artwork as an attempt to try to pull those things out?
Yeah, I'd say more so now in this phase of my life than in the beginning. You know, I think in the beginning you're just you can't help but make stuff. I mean, like, at least for me, it was either going to be that or plant-based medicine. So I was either going to go in the world of making stuff, or go into plant-based medicine type things, because my dad's history is in the medical industry, and
one way or another, it was going to be in nature.
One way or the other, yeah, exactly.
It was going to be something natural and in nature, one way or the
Definitely.
other. I'm interested in, like what you're saying, you feel that there is some ancient knowledge, we'll just call it ancient knowledge, whatever that means, deep in your mind, and that you can feel it. Something's there.
I would call it intuition.
You have an intuitive sense that something is there and you're attempting to pull it out. And that's where your inspiration, you feel your inspiration it pulls from that pool?
I definitely think, yeah, it lives with that. I think there's probably a lot more in that soup than I know about. But, I mean, in a sense, you're asking, why do you make what you make, kind of? Is that... Or
we want to go into that realm.
Yeah, okay.
We want to jump in that pool and explore it.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's why do you go and walk somewhere and you pick up something? What pulls your eye? What is it that makes you say, "Ooh, that's neat"? What is that? What's that glitter?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you pick that up? And what is it that attracts you to an object? And so I guess things that I make are going to be centered on the object. Like, where has it been? What is its purpose?
Mm-hmm.
What was its functions? What was its life like? What can it teach me? What can I learn from it?
Absolutely.
Those are a lot of curious-based questions.
Yes, yeah. It just triggered a question in my mind that, like you're saying, when nature creates something that is very interesting and curious to a human, and they say, "Oh, look at that twig," it sounds like you are tapping into that part of your own nature to create things like nature does, so that people look at them and say, "This is really curious."
Yeah, yeah.
So it sounds like you're tapping into that creative nature.
Yeah. I would also say that I want to try and make something that I don't think anybody else can make. I think, to me, that there's a lot of, within the art community, there is a lot of controversy about the word craft versus art. What is art? What is a craft? And I think jewelry making has often been put into the crafts world.
It's arts and crafts. It's
exactly.
Kind of crafts.
And so metalworking can be considered something different. Sculpture would be considered something real art, right? You know. So personally speaking, when I carve something and make it into wax, I do want it to be difficult. I want it to challenge my abilities to actually, because this was all wax before it was solid. So I basically take a block like this and carve this, set the stones in the wax, and then pop it out. So the process itself, there's a lot of, it might not work, you know. Even within, once you get this nice piece of wax carved, then it may not, through the casting process, it may not come out. So hours could be just literally melted away.
You're not sure if you can actually do it.
Yes.
And so you're kind of like, I want this to be created.
Yes.
And I'm pulling all of my resources to give it my greatest effort to bring this into creation.
Yes. And like, I want people to be able to look at it and say, "Wow, how'd that happen? How'd she make that?" Yeah. Also, in this day and age, there's a lot of CNC wax carving. Like, the jewelers are using growing drawing machines to where they grow the wax and then cast it.
Mm-hmm.
But it has a very machined look. Yes, it may be exact,
Yeah.
but most of the stones you get are still cut by hand. So they're not going to be perfect.
Right.
So I used to, working for a jeweler, I would make the wax carving for a stone that someone had picked out. Well, the stone may not be perfect, but when I carve a wax, I'm going to make it look right. I'm going to make it look balanced. It may not measure right, but it's going to look right because
Yeah.
every facet on that stone is not measured exactly
Right.
the same. So it's kind of like a balancing of all these materials.
Yeah.
I like that because I guess romantically speaking, it does harken to alchemical days, and I very much have studied like the alchemical process spiritually and physically. And to me, I think before I ever come up with something spiritually or cognizant, I have to physically experience it.
And so it sounds like what I'm hearing you say is that as you're going through this process, alchemically, you're looking for the balance of things.
Yeah.
And that is
or the asymmetry of it, because there's a beauty in that too.
The beauty. There's something in that beauty, and it's like it does. You go somewhere in your mind, and where the symmetry, like you say, and the balance of it all makes sense, and it has a very natural. You experience it in some natural glory of some kind.
Yeah, and it becomes pleasing to people, or it becomes, I think a lot of times people will say, well, if it's going to be real art, it should really make you question, or it should evoke some kind of emotion. Well, most of the emotions that evoked in this is more positive, so I think it can kind of be downplayed on importance.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, that's kind of out there, but
what I'm seeing here from what you're describing is that what it sounds like is like that memory you said, when you're walking out, you take a break from the school and you're out, you're in nature, and everything is unique.
Yeah.
And as a human being, we can look in the world, and nature has an infinite creativity of uniqueness. And you can just look at the twigs on the ground, and each one of them is their own thing, and it just does something to the human being. And that the spirit of that creation, if we want to call it a spirit, it sounds like is in your inspirational process to infuse that into these things that you're creating.
Yeah, it's detailed. It's paying attention to the detail. I mean, like, when you spend a lot of time, my mom used to have me do this process in the woods where she'd outline 3 square foot and give me a sketchbook and say, all right, find something cool to sketch in this little area. And you're like, oh man, it's just leaves, or it's just dirt. There's nothing really here. You could have given me a spot over there where there was a cool plant or whatever, but you start looking around and you start looking at this micro world.
Yes.
And
it's
talk about inspiration.
Yeah,
there's so many things you can see. So I guess, it's my attempt to be a part of that, I guess.
Part of nature. And that's really, what I feel here in this space is I feel that I'm a part of nature being in here. This studio of yours is like a shrine to nature. There's life, there's death, there's symmetry, everything has its place, and it's just beautiful in here. I would imagine that, obviously when I'm in here, I can tell that you've created this place to inspire you.
Yes, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Creating the place?
Yeah.
Well, I have a big reader for a lot of things, but obviously, when you're making something, I want to start with a stone. I guess that's part of my schooling too. Like, I did many years in an actual conventional jewelry store where I was creating out of nothing someone's ring that they were going to wear for the rest of their lives.
Creating out of nothing.
Yes.
I love that.
Out of their brain, because you're wanting to get their forever piece.
Ooh, that's a very intuitive process, an empathic process.
It's very,
you have to tap
yes,
into.
you put yourself aside and you say, okay, because someone's wedding ring, it's on a different level than just jewelry.
Totally.
It becomes a totem, it becomes a symbol, it becomes something that they wear all the time. It embodies their relationship, a lot of their life, like who they are and some things. So you get people that are very, they want nothing more but to impart their image of what they want to you as a maker.
Absolutely. That's a big responsibility.
Yes, and I think that is where I have been very successful, is being able to pick out of someone else's brain what aspects they want, or adjectives, or what they want it. And that's what I usually tell them, like, give me some adjectives, some descriptive words that you like, that organic, non-organic, modern, like all these types of deco. Like you create this image just out of feelings first, before you ever get to the structure of something.
Yeah.
And so that, and I think that was a great training field for being able to pick anything out of my own brain. I think sometimes it's to be inspired will be mainly to find a stone and say, oh man, I see in that stone an owl.
Yeah,
to me that is an owl. Like I really like pairing animals with stones, and you're creating a talisman. To me, my personal work is creating an amulet or a talisman, something that has more meaning than just the stone, the metal, the imagery.
Like you have an object, and you are imprinting a lot of your energy into it,
exactly,
or their energy, and something that they can hold on to,
yeah.
and you're putting a lot of mental and emotional energy infused into that object.
Yes, I think that's where heirlooms come from. I think that's where any artifact comes from. Like, to me, all these little things, they make me think of artifacts. Like, they make me think of something past or present that has its own unique little gift that maybe I can make shine a little bit more. Maybe. Maybe not. Or just the joy of combining things and putting them out there that may not have happened. Like, I mean, that's a frog, and it's in malachite. So, I mean,
I love malachite.
And malachite's a great stone.
It's one of my favorite stones.
Yeah.
Did you draw the frog?
Yeah. I'll look up images online, and then I'll change it to what I need to the stone.
Malachite, and this is a piece you're working on?
I guess I got a series going right now that's personal work, that is animal amulets, and that's basically pairing metals and different stones and their attributes or their histories. I think it's really interesting when you look at a stone and where it comes from. Its own history of becoming important, just like metal. Why is metal sought after? Why is gold so valuable? Like, amber used to be more traded than gold was. Like,
exactly.
So there's pearls were more valuable, and now rubies are more valuable than diamonds in some senses. So why do we attach the importance to objects? What makes something precious and invaluable, or more valuable than something else?
Yeah.
And I think when you put that together, you give it life in a different form.
Absolutely, that's a great way of putting it. What I'm thinking and seeing in my mind is that in your creative process, has a lot to do with the physical nature of things, and infusing your inspirational, I'll call it inspirational energy, what inspires you, or that spark, like you called it, and you're using your hands and your body to work that thing to match the idea or the imaging in your mind.
Yeah.
And infuse it with this, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but being in your space here, this kind of spirit of nature.
Yeah, it is life. It's all those things that as someone who doesn't live in this space, when you come into it, the things that pop out at you and make you think, I want that to be as obvious to other people when they look at a piece that I've created. Like, most people would never have put a bone in a piece of jewelry, and I think a bone can be just as precious as a ruby, like, to me, but to a lot of people, it's not. you know?
Sure. Can I see that one?
Yeah.
This is one of the most unique pieces of jewelry I think I've ever seen. This is unbelievable. What a piece of beauty here. And the face, the look, I can just feel the process that you put into creating that. And how you wanted it to, it's like it's talking to you or something.
Yeah, there's rare pieces like that just come out, and every now and then I think when I have a client, and I love working with clients because you want to have, it's not about you. Whatever you make is not about you. It makes you connect to another individual and their spark and their creative. Maybe they aren't meant to work the way I'm meant to work in these materials, but it doesn't mean that through that collaboration with another person that you can't create something really cool. Like I did an engagement ring just recently for a friend, and he really wanted it to be star themed because his fiance worked for NASA.
Oh,
and so he was having a really hard time. He's like, I don't know anything about jewelry, rings. I trust you. I trust what you can do. So make this happen.
Right.
And that was a wonderful process, and it worked out really well. I mean, I haven't sent it off to him yet.
Oh boy, we don't want to.
But
wow. Oh, it's a star. Can I put this in the
Sure.
It is a star. What a beautiful piece. Unique. Oh gosh.
so even though this isn't a piece that I would just sit down and say I want to make a star ring, like that's going to fulfill my creativity.
Yeah.
It does really fulfill my creativity because I have that connection with another person.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are creating. It's a collaborative, creative process that you know is going to bring a lot of long-lasting joy.
Yes, and it's going to become something more than what I just made. It to that person, it will become something way more.
They'll wear it, and their whole life experience will be infused into the life of that piece. One thing that you said that I think is extremely important is that you had the wonderful opportunity to have a parent who gave you an assignment to find beauty in what may have been something you might have walked over and not even thought about.
Yeah.
That type of life lesson, I believe, is invaluable and missed in our culture today. But I'm so grateful that you had that opportunity to have your mother offer you the opportunity to see uniqueness and beauty where you may not have sought otherwise.
Yeah, she definitely is someone that has. I gotta give props for making me partially of who I am for sure. I mean, yeah, we do obviously the genetic coding and imprinting and all that stuff, but yeah, she was my teacher up through high school, and then I went to an art school. Which was the public system, but having her as a teacher was really started me out with a different concept of what knowledge is, what a belief is, and what I can just do. I mean, my father too, he was very much, you can do whatever you put your mind to, and I think as far as being a successful person or being even successful at art, which I think is hard to do.
Yeah.
Granted, I have to do a lot of different kind of arts. Like, I'll make mounts for minerals and museums, so mount making, which is not typically looked at as art. It's functional, so it's just a steel structure that holds the art,
right,
or holds the artifact, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
which has its own importance.
It has its own importance.
Yeah,
yeah. It has to protect, hold, but still be removable. It has all of these challenges, which to me fulfill the term for art.
Absolutely, yeah. It is definitely serving a purpose.
Exactly, and they're functional. And when you see them without the piece in them, they're very beautiful. They look like metal trees, because you have to follow the contour of the mineral or whatever it is that you're mounting. So, being able to have that inborn in my brain that you can do whatever you put your mind to made it easy for all the rest of the steps to happen. because you really, it's like, well, okay, I'll try that, and if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. Like, that process is fine. Like, I'll go as far as I can, and then when you get to the other end of it and you have a project that's done, whether it's a giant nautiloid that you've sculpted, that was another piece that I got to the end of, and I thought, how the hell did I do this? If I had looked at it at the end when I was in the beginning, I would have been too intimidated to even start.
Yeah.
And
so you had a real journey, a real journey through
a very process of paying attention to what you have in front of you, what you're doing right now. And I don't know, everybody's got their different processes, and some people like to think the process all the way through all the steps. But the problem is, you don't have any fluidity in that. You can't, when you hit a brick wall, it's almost like you're stopped. You literally hit a brick wall. There's no going around it. There's no bending.
If you're the river, you're going over the stones and you're moving exactly, flowing along, and it sounds like you really are the river.
I think that's how you can successfully make things, and you still, that doesn't mean that you don't mess things up or think back and say, oh, next time I would do that better, or if there's a next time, or if I redid it, I would do it a little bit differently. But it's functional, it's good, it's beautiful, it satisfies me, and I think that's another thing, being satisfied with your work is why I think there are artists that are never satisfied, and maybe that's what drives them to create. Maybe.
That could be their strategy to keep them going.
Yeah. But I don't know if that's where I'm from.
It doesn't seem like it, because it seems like you have been taught in the right way.
It feels right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of right ways
to make something. The main thing is the joy of creating.
Yes, definitely.
And that that it can end, meaning you'll finish this piece and there's a joy in that.
Yeah.
And then the joy is then give me the next inspiration, give me the next idea that I can allow that to explode inside of my mind, and then my hands start moving.
And another thing, I don't like the word perfect. Like, that to me is, other people can use it, but I don't find myself using it.
It sounds like you don't want to be trapped in that mind trap. Of perfection.
Yes.
That'll get in the way of creativity.
To me, it's a limiting word. It limits you to be stagnant, I guess, in some senses. Like, if it's not perfect, then you're always reaching, you're always dissatisfied. If it is perfect, then, well, that's kind of boring. I mean, like, it's not, I don't think you can really achieve perfection, really. It's just perfect to you.
I don't think it's a word that nature uses. I think it's a word that we've created.
Which is funny, because I think I probably would only use perfect in nature. Like, to me, that's perfection. That's the only thing that could be perfect
in its beauty,
itself.
And the fact that it's its own realm.
Exactly.
And I'll honor that realm and I'll just love the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's excellent, and I want to thank you for letting me spend some time. Like I say, the ambiance in here is incredible, and I can definitely feel that you've created a space to promote your creativity, to spark your creativity, and to pull out of you ideas of things you want to bring into the world. I can feel it in this space, and it's so important for the setting. And I can feel it in here, and what you guys have created here, and it's amazing. If somebody wants to find you, how do they find you?
I have a website, which is crownfoxstudios.com.
There's the fox there, so you have a definite connection with the fox. Say it again?
crownfoxstudios.com.
crownfoxstudios.com. I'll have a link for it below, and I highly recommend anyone who's looking for a unique piece of jewelry.
Yeah.
Something handmade, completely unique, infused with an incredible spirit of nature. To go and reach out to Sarah. the land here where they live, and I'm not going to tell you where they live, is so amazing. There's so much beauty around. The bees that you keep here, it is just so full of life. This place is just filled with life.
Yeah,
it's amazing. I'm going to cry. I'm getting so emotional because of the energy in this place is incredible, and it gets infused into your artwork. That's what makes it unique.
So.
Oh, it's amazing.
I also have an Instagram account that shows a lot of the things that I'm working on right now. The website is kind of like an online portfolio of things I do. You can still reach me there easily.
What is that?
Instagram is still a Crown Fox Studios, or
Okay.
Kara Singh is my personal, which is fine too.
And
But they're both linked to each other.
I'll have those links in the thing, in the description below. Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, and more to come. Thank you. All right.